Hey guys, so this is going to be a quick kind of overview of your inquiry project, sort of as a whole. So the first thing I want to show you is you can get to the assignment sheets from two different places. One, you can scroll down and go to assignment sheets, and it's going to take you to a place with all your major things. So it's where we're going to have like the stuff to go over, like our final portfolio with your writing theory and also your project. Remember, your inquiry project is graded in the final portfolio at the end of the semester. It's something that we are going to start and then we're going to be working on during the entire term. So we'll be, kind of scaffolding it over the course of the semester, and then you'll submit your final draft at the end of the term as part of the portfolio. You can click here and it's going to take you to that module, or you can just click modules. And I've actually moved it up to the top now that it's published, so that you can kind of go through it. So the way the module works is there's sort of a main page that goes over just sort of like the gist of an overview of the project, the goals of the project as a whole, and then it takes you to your two major components of your project, the annotated bibliography and the digital essay. So I'm going to open this first. So this is something you're going to be choosing a recent issue. So it does need to be something that is current and relevant. I don't tell people that they need to choose something to research that's that's like part of a class theme. The two suggestions I make are something that you discover or already know is really interesting to you, that's going to be less painful for you to spend the semester working on, or two, something that's relevant to your major, or something that you're considering for a major. I've had people make decisions, like should go this route and make decisions or even changes in their major based on this project. So, for instance, if you're going into education, choose an education relevant issue. If you're going into the medical field, choose something related to health. You get the idea. So we're going to be spending actually the next few weeks choosing your issue. The first studio, which we will be also starting soon, is your first stab at doing some brainstorming for this project. And once you've selected, we will begin the annotated bibliography and the digital essay. I already sort of went over when things will be due. What I want you to kind of pay attention to, and maybe I'll zoom in on this just a little bit, is our list of banned topics and cautionary tales. These are issues that either they're off the table altogether, or they're cautionary tales, meaning you really need to talk to me and it needs to be approved before you kind of dive into it. And everything that's here is it's not here to make your life more difficult, but I do encourage people to choose issues that, one, are going to make good projects, things that aren't going to be things that if people have tried them before and they didn't work, like multiple people have tried to research this issue and it was really difficult to do a good project with, I put it under like the cautionary tales or the banned list. Also, if it's something that's been done and done and done and done, I pull it because of most of the research. You're not gonna be able to say anything new when one of the requirements of the project is that there's new things happening with this issue. You're not going to be just repeating things that people have already said before. There's something new that's happening now. You can teach us something. So again, like, it might seem like it's just to make it more difficult, but it's also to ensure that you're going to pick something that's going to fulfill the requirements of the project. So I'm going to go through really quick the things that are banned. Abortion, nature versus nurture. Lots of issues include nature versus nurture, so if you have an issue where that's part of the debate, that's okay, but nature versus nurture as a whole is too big and vague. Smoking bans, comparisons of religion. That's just really difficult to answer through research because you're going to have to start with detailed history of every religion that's ever existed. And one of the things to really think about is whether or not what you choose is answerable through academic research. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot research about religion. I've had lots of people do really good projects on different issues within religion. Evaluative comparisons, where you're just comparing two things. Eating disorders as a main focus. If you want to research a topic where eating disorders comes up as part of that, that's okay. But as a whole, it just ends up being like a list of what they are. There's not really much to, many places to go. Tattoos in the workplace, capital punishment, the existence of God, life after death, student or professional athlete pay, texting and driving, changing the driving age, lowering the drinking age, same-sex marriage, other LGBTQ issues are perfectly fine. Euthanasia and or assisted suicide, conspiracy theories. Remember, answerable through academic research. 9/11, Tupac, the Illuminati. No. Restrictions of dangerous pet breeds. Because it's not, again, like it's one of those things that's not answerable through research. It ends up being based on people's preferences and experiences, and there's nowhere really concrete to go with it. It ends up being lots of interviews with people saying, well, I was attacked by this breed, and someone else saying, I have a pit bull and it's super nice. Like, there's just nowhere to go with it. Evolution versus creationism, drug use of any kind regarding sports, concussions in football, the reality of witchcraft. It wouldn't be on here if it hadn't been tried. How to be fit. Now, I'll say this, health-related questions are awesome. There's so many really good things you can research that are health related. I think health and education are the two biggest issues that people kind of really are able to do good projects with. But this how to be fit ends up being like a how-to guide on like what exercises I should be doing and like what vitamins I should be taking. No. Cautionary tales. These are things that people have really struggled with before. It's not that you can't do them, and it's usually because they're really broad, and it's really difficult for people to narrow them in. But if you see it on here and you feel like you can, you're welcome to run it by me. Stress and college. Because it ends up being stuff like get more sleep, have a schedule, like all kinds of superficial stuff. The impact of social media on teens, the impact of screen time on kids, air pollution, immigration. This is cautionary tale because people tend to do immigration as like a whole issue. You really got to narrow it in on something like specific that's happening right now. And there is a lot to talk about there. Global warming, gun control, healthcare. Again, these are all really big topics that people will try to latch onto and make them too big. If you can narrow it in, run it by me. Online bullying, stem cell research, funding, space exploration, robots in the workforce, and world hunger. Okay. So there's a lot here. Again, you're welcome to ask questions, post questions about this kind of stuff in the coffee shop, post other kinds of questions in the coffee shop. And just kind of, let me know if you have ideas. We're going to start brainstorming really quickly on this. And I'm going to go back to, and I'm going to go to the first thing, which we're going to start once you've chosen your topic, is the annotated bibliography. And this is, again, I'm going to go through this in more detail when we get there. I'm just going to do a really quick overview. I don't know if you've ever seen an annotated bibliography, but it looks a little bit like a Works Cited list, just of citations, except for each of those, it's formatted that way, except for each of those you're going to write like a paragraph for each one. That tells me things like what the source is about, what it adds to this conversation, and some information about the author, right? So I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit. So if you go through this assignment sheet, you'll be able to see like what am I going to include. So like things about like how it's formatted and requirements there, how to write an annotation for a source. So like what you're actually going to put in those commentary on your sources, what kinds of sources to use. We are going to have 8 for this in 3 different sort of categories. You do have some required sources, which we'll work on, a book chapter, a primary source, and a peer-reviewed article. We'll kind of go through also some of the things that we're going to avoid, how it's going to be assessed. So I have requirements and skills down here. So these are like just a kind of a summative thing of like, here are the requirements that I've, kind of already covered in the assignment sheet that you want to make sure you hit. And then here are the skills that we're going to be working on through this assignment. So when you turn in your draft at the end of the semester and during the term, I'll be looking to see if you are working on these things in your assignment. And I kind of say this on the digital essay too. There is in the portfolio on the rubric I'll be using for grading that, kind of a built-in bonus for what I call evidence of effort, meaning that not just like saying you worked really hard on it, but I have seen evidence, like you've come to office hours, you've been involved in workshops. I can, you're turning in drafts, or you're letting me know when you're having a hard time, you're making revisions. I can see these skills like really happening, like evidence of effort. It just kind of helps out, like if people are kind of struggling with it, but they have been working hard, it allows me a little bit of wiggle room to give you a little bump there. All right, next is the digital essay. And this is an essay that we're going to write at the end of the semester. It's a kind of a visual piece, and we'll look at, I do have some examples down here, so if you scroll down to the bottom to can I get some examples? There's a couple of student examples, and I'll kind of add some more as we get further along from the previous semester. Just so you can see what I mean when I say a digital essay. It's an essay, just like any other essay you would write, except it's, digitally enhanced, considers different modes, uses image, videos, links, that kind of stuff to support what you're talking about. It's 2,000 words, and it includes 10 sources. I'm not sure if there's too much more I want to really go through. A lot of this is like stuff that we're really going to cover more when we get closer to it. The goal is just to understand like the gist of it. The annotated bibliography is where you are going to research kind of the conversation as a whole. When we were looking at this Burke's Parlor model earlier, when we were talking about like what an academic conversation looks like, here's what we're doing. So if this is the conversation, violent video games and teens, or however we talked about it, what you're going to be doing for the next few weeks is choosing the conversation you want to be a part of. In the annotated bibliography, you're going to be kind of doing this, hearing everyone out, trying to figure out what studies there are, what the child psychologists are saying, what kind of like current news is out there, maybe get some like interviews with parents or gamers, maybe look at some like magazines, see what teachers have to say about it. And you want to, from an objective perspective, hear what different groups of people in the conversation are saying. And then you're going to go here for the digital essay. You are going to take your place at the table, at the conversation, and contribute something. And after having heard out what all these people say, you might find that you can then evaluate and see which things and which articles or studies included in the conversation are accurate, which things are biased, like which things you want to refute and what you want to use as evidence. And then you're going to talk about your perspective on the issue based on the research that you've done. And so that's sort of what we're going to be working on. Choosing the conversation you want to be a part of, hearing everybody out with your annotated bibliography. And again, it's a list of sources with commentary. It's not an essay. I have some people kind of get confused about that. And then the digital essay comes last, and that's where you're going to contribute something to the conversation. And that is pretty much everything that I'm going to be covering for now. So look through everything, answer the couple questions that are included in the quiz, and post questions for me in the coffee shop. Peace.